Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. It is Tuesday night, about 6:40. Getting an earlier start than last night. It's also not near as cold as it was last night. And basically, I had a terrible night. Came out to do this video. Got interrupted multiple times. If you take nothing else away from this, I use timestamps, by the way, if you're new here. But if you take nothing else away, be very leery of giving your personal cell phone to customers, because it just might ruin a couple of evenings. With that said, we're going to get right into this video. Everything will be linked down below. Again, I do timestamps. If you're curious about the gloves, they are from Alpha. Using the discount code LoneStar, you can save 20%. I make nothing off that. It is solely for your convenience. But let's just get right into it. This little item right here has created quite the stir. Now, what we have is a brand new tool. This is a pliers wrench from Harbor Freight. It's a price point of $39.99. I picked it up this past Saturday. And I will tell you right now, there's going to be a couple of different reactions here. Some of you will be irate. Some of you will think this is great. Some of you will be neutral and curious. Took me forever to find this. It's not with the Icon Pliers. It's not with the pliers. It's on an end cap with new products. Right beside it was a tool that I've not seen on the website at all, and I do check it frequently. Right here, if you're not familiar with this, this is the Knipex Raptor, and it's great for tie rods. I'm sure you can do some other things with it, but anytime you kind of need like a ratchet action, grips like a think of the channel lock nut buster. Also kind of along those lines. There was an Icon equivalent to this. I mean, take these handles and put them here, and there you go. So I'm just throwing that out there if any of you are curious. What I want to hit on though right now is the elephant in the room. I will stay right now, I am a big fan of Knipex. I'm a big fan of German tools. I'm also, believe it or not, as weird as the combination of German tools and Harbor Freight is, I like Harbor Freight too. I know, very weird. I'm also into Mopars. But we have kind of two competing fronts here. There's fronts that are like, wow, pliers wrench at Harbor Freight for $39. What a steal. I'm going to buy it. These other suckers, they're getting ripped off. And then you have people that are like, that's a blatant copy of the Knipex Pliers Wrench. And there's not a lot of middle ground. On the fringe, you've probably got people over here that, you know, are like too good to ever set foot in Harbor Freight. And then over here, you've got people that probably have Harbor Freight as their main tool source, right? You've got to realize, if you're here on YouTube in your free time, whether you're in bed with your wife at night, and a lot of you, for whatever reasons, watch my videos and still aren't divorced, make your wife sit through it too. You're kind of a tool person in that regard. You are interested in tools, you know about brand new tools, you want to learn more about brand new tools, you're looking for tools. There's a lot of people, believe it or not, I know, also super weird, that are not like you and I. They don't care. So, for the very rare fringe people over here, they could legitimately walk into Harbor Freight, see this, flip the packaging over, wonder what it is, and quickly learn about it and purchase it, not knowing, you know, who developed it originally, that it's a copy of something, nothing, and just be thrilled with their purchase or find they don't use it, whatever. But we're concerned about the blatantly obvious, okay? We're looking at the two camps where, wow, great, Harbor Freight's done it again, versus, oh geez, this is terrible. And so, where to start? Number one, this is a pliers wrench. It's from Harbor Freight. If you're curious, the innovator, the people that designed and developed the pliers wrench originally, would be Knipex. We've done a ton of videos with Knipex products. I like them. They're very good quality. Where you have an issue is not that Harbor Freight has released this. They've not done anything super egregious in terms of like direct violations of, you know, patents or anything. Why? Because the patents have since expired. That's why you see others' plier wrenches, right? Here, not just this past week when Icon from Harbor Freight dropped one on us, but Capri, same week, this past week, they released two sort of out of the blue. And then you've also got other German tool companies doing it, right? You've got a Gedore here, you've got a Stahlwille here. If you're curious about, you know, my affinity for pliers wrenches and Knipex, this one actually gets used the least out of my Knipex pliers wrenches. This one right here, believe it or not, it's the same thing, but if you note right on there, we've got some jaw covers because I use this a ton and I try to protect finishes, and that's why it's sort of beat up. But that's what we have, is jaw covers, accessories if you will. So, wherein lies the problem? Why is this so controversial? Well, let's take a gander at them, shall we? Knipex in the middle, Knipex to the left, Icon to the right, bordered by Gedore and Stahlwille in green. Capri, they've got theirs. They did kind of an NWS head design, have a nice black and blue color scheme that's tied in with their company, right? It's all good in the hood, if you will. So what's going on and where people are going to have issue? This is like a blatant copy of the Knipex. Now, they always say, as we mentioned, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but sometimes you can take it a little too far, right? Gedore and Stahlwille, they were sitting there, they saw the Knipex Pliers Wrench, they're like, well, that's a great tool, people seem to love it, we should make one. And the question is, how can we make it our own? How can we improve upon this tool? And it's not easy to do when you have something great and innovative. You have to sit there and you really have to think about it, right? The Stahlwille, we're not going to go crazy deep into this. The Stahlwille is a totally different design than anything else on the market. We'll get into pricing later. The Gedore, while it looks very similar, it's a situation where its selling point has to do with this lever, okay? So with the Knipex, if we want to, good Lord, if this is the customer again, I'm not even going to look. I'm not even going to look. If we want to use the Knipex, right, and we have an unknown, fastener here, we come in and it's locked. I have to press again and slide up, right? I have to literally physically depress the button to adjust to whatever size fastener we have. What Gedore did is pretty smart. Now, it does take some getting used to. I will be the first to admit that. But you press, let's go closed all the way, right? So it's in storage. We come out, I don't have a metric wrench big enough, and I'm like, hey, I think the pliers wrench will cover it. I come out, I go all the way down. This is the beauty with Gedore. My thumbs are here. I can literally go in and out. So if I have a huge fastener, I go right here. I'm clipped. Watch the action here on the cam. As soon as I twist, you see the click, we are now locked in place. They innovated. They said, hey, let's make this better, and they did. Harbor Freight, to their credit, they realized, hey, this is a cool tool, we could probably sell these, some of our consumers might not be aware of them, but they didn't do anything to innovate. Now, to their credit, Knipex would be the best-selling pliers wrench. Why? It's the innovator. It's been around the longest because of that. Plus, it's been improved, and it's got a really good price point for a quality tool. The Icon, we literally have a direct copy as close as Taiwan could do to what Knipex does. When I polled you, the viewers, about this, I was like, hey, just saw this at Harbor Freight, should we do it? There was a lot instantly clashing things. There's people like, yes, do it, super curious. And then there's people that say, no, don't do it, don't touch it, don't want to see that junk. It's that polarizing of a deal, and in part, it's because this is that, right? I mean, different handles and, different base materials, and it's the same. I'll give them credit. If you're going to copy something, copy the best. But at the same time, I don't want to say that I'm mad at Harbor Freight as much as I am disappointed. Think of this as when you're a little kid and you think you're going to get in trouble, and then you don't, and you're kind of relieved, but then your parents utter that line like, I'm not upset, I'm just disappointed, and you instantly sink and you feel terrible about yourself. Right? And it's almost worse than being punished or, physically beat or thrown across the room, whatever went down in your childhood. That's sort of where I'm at. They had a legitimate opportunity here to take the Stahlwille route, to take the Gedore route, and do their own thing. And they just kind of stuck to, well, the Knipex worked, we're going to do that. And that is where they've created kind of the controversy. Had they have taken their own spin on the pliers wrench, people still probably would have knocked them. Why? Because it's Harbor Freight. But then people could come and say, hey, look, they tried, to improve on this. It was a flop, or it's actually really good. You got to try it before you, just completely destroy it. But there was basically no attempt to differentiate this. They just have the Icon dipped handles, which this is my first time holding them. I kind of like them. But where we're going to dive into now is the misconceptions, right? So you see these two tools, and if you put this in chrome, it's basically the same thing. Knipex, you've got various handle styles. You have a plastic dipped channel lock style that's similar to this. You would have the dipped textured anti-slip, which is right here, which is what I kind of prefer. Some people hate it because it does get dirty and it's very hard to clean, and then it feels like your hands are getting embedded. It's personal preference. I've started to go with the 2 components on Knipex. I call them 2 components for a reason. It's not so much a comfort grip as it is just multi-component handles. Okay, so with Harbor Freight and the Icon line, you get this. You get a thick, fairly, I mean, for what it is, it's not a bad handle, okay? But that's basically everything that they've done to differentiate it, short of having Knipex stamped in, okay? So, the first thing I want to do, and when you look around the website, there's 2 reviews currently at Harbor Freight. One person, I think, bought it and likes it. The other person, I don't know that they bought it. They're just like, Knipex who? Then if you get into forums and stuff, and then even what I posted on YouTube and the discussion and messages I get, people are like, wow, you know, is Knipex rebranding these for Harbor Freight? That's a great savings. That could not be farther from the truth. That needs to be dispelled instantly. That's the first thing I did last night. Let's take a look at the Icon packaging here. Again, 10-inch lifetime warranty. We flip her over. Smooth parallel jaws for precise fit on all types of finishes. I butchered that last night too. Slim profile allows easy access to tight spaces, easy to read laser edge size markings, easy push button for fast 21 position adjustment, matte chrome for rust protection and durability, and then a non-slip cushion grip. What's the most important thing to note right here for anyone on the fence, anyone that's going to argue this, tell you that these are rebranded Knipex, tell you it's the same thing. Designed by Icon Tools in the USA, manufactured in Taiwan. Okay, Knipex pliers are not going to be manufactured in Taiwan. They're not going to be engineered in actually, in the case of like the twin grip, you know, they could possibly originate in the US, but they're going to be manufactured in Germany, all right, especially their plier line. This is 100% a German tool. This is 100% not a German tool. Knipex is not Harbor Freight. They don't sell at Harbor Freight. They don't rebrand for Harbor Freight. This is a Harbor Freight tool. This is an Icon tool. It's super similar because they copied it like almost to the point that you have to like slap them and say like, don't, you know, do your own thing. But it is not Knipex. I cannot stress that enough. It's sad that some people are confused, and you know, you think like, man, how could anyone be that stupid? Well, they dang near look identical, and so it's sort of on the edge of deception, right? And like I said, there's pros and cons to that. The patents are gone, they've expired, but do something different, you know? It's like I said, I feel Harbor Freight could have put their spin on this, avoided most of the controversy, and still had a decent tool. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, just after playing around with these last night, there are some issues. The first and foremost issue I want to hit on is the price. I believe if you had to identify an initial fatal flaw, it would be the price. These are $39.99. Harbor Freight's going to tell you to compare to the 8601 250, which is right here. Keep in mind, these are the black finish with soft jaws, which are optional. You can add that on, put them on any pair of pliers. And they're going to say they're around like $66, $67, all right? $39.99, I feel like Harbor Freight has missed the mark. Yes, people are going to go in and buy it, and they're going to say it's $30 cheaper than Knipex. Here's the problem, okay? Icon tools are very, very rarely on sale. When there's the coupons, they usually get excluded. Oftentimes in the instant savings, which cycles roughly every 2 weeks, you might see a select ratchet, maybe a socket set, something along those lines that gets put on instant savings. It's rarely much. You know, you think of, oh, it's 20%. No, it's probably like 8%. You know, yes, it's cheaper than usual, but it's not anything. I'll tell you right now, if you're new to Harbor Freight, many, many times a new product, a new tool comes out and it's priced high. They're trying to figure things out. There are people, in the case of like Bauer and Hercules products, you're going to rush out there and buy it. You've been waiting for it. You want to try it. You need it. It's going to be an upgrade, whatever your logic is, and you're willing to pay that price point. After that initial rush of, dang, I've been waiting for this, or wow, this is super cool, I got to have it now, not even going to wait for a sale, the price tends to drop. Will this come down to $29? I don't know. I feel like that's where they need to be, is $29. $34 with a coupon, you know, you'd kind of get in the same ballpark. But the reason I say that, and you're like, man, you're being way too hard on this place. You know, I thought you liked Harbor Freight. I do. I really do. And I wish they would have done like market research or like pitch this to people. And whether, you know, will you fight the hand that feeds? I would, because I'm trying to help them. Okay? Like, you do not put something out that is this eerily similar to an existing, well-known, well-respected product. It's never going to end well. They say there's no bad publicity. I'm someone that kind of tends to disagree with that. But nonetheless, where we're at, and the reason that I'm going to argue 39 is the first issue we have to take here, people aren't walking in Harbor Freight to spend a ton of money. Okay, I still want Harbor Freight to produce something in America just to tick people off, you know, and to make good quality stuff here. Again, just to tick people off. But it's a situation where if I'm going to Harbor Freight, it's not to spend top tier money on a tool. It's to get, you know, a budget. I'm not going to use it often. I just want to try it. That type of a thing. And where the quality has improved, they're kind of in that point. You know, I feel bad anytime I'm in Harbor Freight and buy something and it's not on sale or doesn't have a coupon. That's how their model was for years. It's ingrained in me. It's almost a deal where if I saw something I wanted and I was like, man, I'm going to get that, I would wait, because I'm like, it's probably going to go on sale in a week or two, or there will be a coupon or something crazy. And that's where you get with it. But again, with Icon, it's super limited in the discounts. With Knipex, yes, $67, absolutely. You're going to find that all day online, but you can also find way better prices online, and this is where it gets bad, okay? With Knipex at KC Tool right now, you're looking at $69. Chad's Toolbox, you're looking at $56.32. You can find lots of places where it's around the same $39. Yes, you would have VAT. I don't quite understand that. I don't ever import from Europe, personally. We fought wars over taxes. I try to stay away from them. But it's a situation where, if you're patient, tool of the day, Knipex quarterly sale, you can get a pliers wrench for around $40 to $45. All right? It's something that's going to happen if you wait and you're patient. If you're not patient and you don't want to wait that long, you can probably pick one up for around $50. Okay? So when we're looking at $40 to $50, we're only at a $10 threshold. At that price point, I will tell you straight up, you're a nut for not getting the known higher quality tool. All right, there's a reason this can be produced. Number one, it's in Taiwan, and number two, it's the base material. All right, like, it's always going to come down. You always hear about German steel. It's a situation where you have the same thing in America, and what this is you have higher standards that you hold your materials to. You start with a better base material, you end with a better tool every single time. Granted, you could do things where you finish it out bad, you don't anneal it properly, the heat treating was off, all sorts of stuff can go wrong, but you're still better off with a higher quality material to begin with. Okay, you can make shafts out of all kinds of stuff, but there's certain materials that are not well suited to it, and there's certain materials that are. So with that in mind, and you factor in the price point in the sale, it's a kicker, because you can get Knipex for super close to this. Now with Gedore, they're going to be around $80, 75 to 80. When they're on sale, they come way down. That's one thing about Gedore. You might be able to get it for around $50. At that point, I would tell you, go this way. With Stahlwille, they're pricey. They're around $120. It's crazy. I don't understand it. Stahlwille and Etched here in the US, super high price points. Etched more than Stahlwille, but $120, I would not fault anybody for saying, well, I'm going to try this Icon for $40. That's a third of the price. Totally fine, right? Especially if you have no experience with either brand or pliers wrench. With the Gedore, it's roughly half the price. Unless you're getting a sweet sale or promo on the Gedore, I can't fault you for that. But the reason, if you go and you look for videos on the Gedore Pliers Wrench, you look for the Stahlwille's Pliers Wrench, you're not going to see many. It's the price point. Keeps even tool people away from it, right? Outside of like German tool reviews, I don't know that there's going to be many other people that have Gedore and Stahlwille Pliers Wrenches. Some of you out there, you know, you don't make videos, but you're like, man, I got to try this stuff, you know. You've probably got them, but you got to realize we are in a very small minority. For the average person, they're like, well, I want something good. and they look at the Knipex. If they know of Gedore and Stahlwille, they look at those prices and they're like, I'm getting Knipex, you know. They're the people that developed this thing to begin with. That's what I'm going to roll with. And so it's a situation where these are basically half the price of Stahlwille. Okay, so that's why there's way more Knipex pliers wrenches out there. Then, of course, Knipex is also marketed a little bit better. It's on tool trucks. It's rebranded for several trucks. You're not going to see Stahlwille very often on a tool truck. Same with Gedore, right? So they've got all that going for them, and the price point is so low, it's close to this, and that's where you have the problem. That is the number one issue. If you're going to come in and buy this for $40, I'm going to tell you right now, wait, look a little harder, dig a little deeper, find a deal on Knipex. You're not going to spend but about $10 more. That's kind of where I think this needs to come down in the price to really do it justice, to really bring people in. Now, in terms of everything else, the Capris that have just come out, their 10-inch is $59. That is crazy. Like, I'll give Harbor Freight credit there. If I like Capri too, all right? But a $60 Capri pliers wrench, you can have the Knipex and you can probably save money. You're almost to Gedore and you're halfway to Stahlwille. They do have a 7-inch with Capri for $49. My advice, buy the 10-inch unless you're working in tight spaces. And then they do have a set, which is the better value at $99 with the foam tray. They do super nice foam trays, and you're saving $10 on the pliers. Tray is basically free at that point. You've also got, again, in defense of Harbor Freight, they're kind of late to the game on the pliers wrench. There's so many pliers wrenches, as I mentioned. You've got Lenox, you've got Dynamic Tools. I mean, if you walk down the aisles of Walmart, Home Depot, and Lowe's, you're going to see takes on Knipex. It's just this one's getting a lot of negativity because of how blatant it like copied the Knipex. And again, it's one of those deals. I wish they would have just put their own spin on it. So what I'm going to reference right now is something I cannot do. German tool reviews, when Knipex upgraded the pliers wrench, again, they took their original design and said, how can we make it better? They changed quite a bit, more than you would think. I don't have a Gen 1 pliers wrench to showcase, but one of the notable things they did is, if you see this hourglass shape, they basically came in and they took material away. Why do you take material away? Well, you do that so you can have a lighter weight. All right, and that's what they did. If I had a Gen 1 pliers wrench, I'm pretty sure it would look even more similar to this. Again, all I have is Gen 2s. I'm going to lay these guys out side by side where you see that extra material, the thinner head. Some people are going to come in and they're going to say, well, this one is beefier. It's the better tool for less money. Again, you've got to think of your base materials, which is critically important, and then you've got to think that, like, hey, Knipex, who developed these, whittled this out because they determined that they had basically over-engineered it initially, and by taking the material away, they weren't impacting the quality of the tool or the performance of the tool. They were saving weight and thus improving the tool, right? So if I had, and I so wish I did have a Gen 1, I'm thinking you would see pretty much the exact same thing there. I don't know if Knipex extended the handles or not. It'll be perhaps a little easier for you to see with the chrome finish on this one. But if we come in, I mean, look at that. That is your difference. And again, people will say, oh, it's a better tool, it's beefier, it's thicker, it's heavier. I can tell the difference in my hand. Again, this would not be whittled out and hourglassed for aesthetics. This would not be done because it can. This is something that's not, you know, a cheaper thing to do. You have to have another step to do that, but it was an improvement Knipex made to the pliers wrench. Okay, so it's almost sad that, you know, they didn't just copy the updated version if you're gonna do that blatant of a deal. And what am I talking about? Well, if you're not familiar with Knipex, the company logo is a diamond, and so sort of like with Vera stuff, you have that Easter egg. That diamond there, which is purely decorative, your viewfinder for your sizes is going to be the triangle. It makes sense. It's kind of like, Knipex, you know, doing their thing there. Right here, part of the forging, you have Knipex. Right here, you've got made in Germany. If I spin it around, we're going to have a tab, and then we're going to have the size designation in the head. Now, we're going to real quickly step to the icon, and guess what we have? Well, We have laser etched, which is again cheaper. It's going to come off if you care. If you're proud about the Icon thing, you like the looks of it, it's going to come off. If we spin her around to the backside, you got the size denotations there. The Icon has 21 positions, the Knipex has 19. Some of you are like, well, they totally improved that, 21 better than 19. I'm going to disagree with you. The Pliers Wrench is a tool. I would prefer fewer positions, and the reason I say that is we're not talking capacity, okay, we're talking positions, and positions means we're able to lock down on everything within the range of nothing to 2 inches in the instance of both of these tools. So the fewer positions, in my opinion, the better. Really, you know, the ideal setup is kind of like you have here with the Gedore, where I can just come in quick action to the deal, cam over, and be locked into place, all right? With both of these, you've got to press down. Some people, when they try to blatantly defend Harbor Freight, are going to say, well, the push button's bigger. I will give you that. The push button is bigger. Now, the push button doesn't say push. I did not copy that part. But it's just essentially, again, it's a deal. As somebody that likes Harbor Freight, I just have to question, like, why? Why would you make it that freaking close? And I cannot answer that. I mean, shoot, you know, the Icon packaging, you know, I don't know what the Icon logo would be if they had one, but we can just assume it's a rectangle, right? So what would have been wrong with, when you're designing this, drafting it up, having, you know, sample prototypes made, what would be wrong with having a rectangle there? It would still look good. Gives you sort of that futuristic look, weight savings, you know, fancy high tech. Couldn't tell you. Coming in terms of pressing the button, yes, it works the same. One of my big complaints last night was this grinds. It grinds a lot. I want to say it will break in over time. Should get smoother, should wear down a little bit and not have as much to grind. All right, that's what grinding does. The Knipex, this is my least used of the Knipex Pliers Wrenches. Again, can't state that enough. It's a deal where we don't have as much grinding, okay? It's super similar, of course, because it's a direct copy. You basically slide along in this track right here. Something that I hope you have been able to pick up on in this comparison is the size markings, okay? So the Knipex, it's just laser etched, as is the Icon. There are certain times, like right now, I can see this. I can tilt the Knipex, I can still see it. I can tilt it this way, it's easy to see. I don't see jack right now. Now, if I tilt it, it kind of starts to come into view a little bit, but I feel like this is something that wasn't really, I think it was thought out, but I don't think it was tested. It was one of those things like it worked on the computer, you know? And then it doesn't translate to the real world. You can see it, but it takes some getting used to, whereas this, with the darker etching, it just shows up better. In fact, it was so bad last night when I was doing this video, I was like, well, it would have been nice since they've copied this much. I literally said, like, I wish they would have put the SAE scale back here. And then I tilted the pliers a little bit, and I was like, oh, they do have it. This is not me knocking, you know, Harbor Freight or being extra critical. It's just like, it's a legitimate issue. If you value the viewfinder and knowing the rough size, Knipex shines, literally, as the winner there. Personally, I'm not sure it's that big of a deal. You look at the Stahlwille, we don't have a size. You look at the Gedore, we don't have laser etchings. It's a cool feature. It kind of helps you if you know, like, well, it's an 1.5 inch nut if you measured it for some reason. Not sure how many people are going to bring a tape measure into that equation. But for me, again, I just kind of prefer to come in and just slide on up to where I am, and whatever size it is whatever size it was. If I don't need to buy another nut or fastener, I'm not concerned about it, you know? So, it's a very notable difference in weight. I've got a clip from last night where I scaled these. Maybe we'll redo that, I'm not sure. But the big thing that's different is the handles. I do not hate the handles. That's not to say that they're going to be great or anything, but like, I can't knock them. I mean, this is an Icon thing, and it's quite comfortable for what it is. Now, the weight, it is blatantly obvious. It's kind of like when we grab the Cutix versus another box cutter. It's that big of a difference. It's roughly 100 grams, if I remember correctly. And again, they achieved that by coming in and basically, in version 2 of the tool, lightening things. I can't stress this enough. This is not because it's cheaper and less material. This is advanced engineering. This is improving upon this initial design. The push button, like I said, yes, it's slightly bigger, but if you listen, I'm just going to shut up and go up and down a few times. That's very grindy. Now, if we come in and we grab the Knipex, let's try to replicate that with the Icon. The hesitancy that you're seeing isn't me doing anything, it's that kind of binds up. Now, I want to stress this is fully functional, but it's not as fluid as the Knipex. Again, this is to be expected in a $39 tool from Taiwan versus a $60 tool from Germany, right? It's just a higher standard. I mean, this means something to Knipex. It's kind of like their pride and joy. This is another product, you know, at Harbor Freight. Will they make version 2 eventually? I don't know. Will they improve this? Possibly. Something I want to hit on with these being here is you've got accessories. You've got soft jaw covers for the Knipex. If that's a big deal, currently not available with Icon. Similarly, Knipex identifies this as a wear item, okay? You've got a Torx fastener, tiny little Torx guy. You've got your spring steel, and it holds and articulates the button on the backside. Harbor Freight, you might have guessed it, same thing, except instead of a Torx fastener, you got a tiny little Phillips. Now, the issue is this is not going to be available from Harbor Freight. You're probably just going to walk in with your broken pliers wrench and get another one. For some people, that's a pro. For some people, it's a con. I personally kind of like the ability and availability of parts to service things myself. You can view it either way you want to, as a pro or a con. But it's just, we're to the point where, I mean, I think this is going to function. It's not near as smooth. It's significantly heavier. Yes, it's cheaper, you know, but it's not cheap enough, in my opinion, to not just get the known item that this so blatantly again, just doing their own thing, making a rectangle there, you know, coloring it a little different. The 21 positions, yeah, for what it's worth, this is 2 inches or 52 millimeters. This is 2 inches or 50 millimeters. There's an extra 2 positions on this one. It's kind of a wash, in my opinion, there. But it's just too much like Knipex, and that's where they're taking all of the heat, and it's a shame. Because like I said, I mean, look, Gedore made their pliers wrench. Stahlwille made their pliers wrench. Capri now made a pliers wrench. Lenox has a pliers wrench. Couple of other companies, you know, again, here even within the past 6 to 8 months have made a version of the pliers wrench. Everyone's doing it. It's a great tool. Credit to Knipex. But do something. I mean, man, do something to differentiate it, improve it. Something more than just like a blatant copy, right? So what I'm going to do here, I had my, one of the many things that went wrong last night. Busted the calipers out. I knew my battery was dead, so I picked up some batteries at Harbor Freight. A little SR44 for the Minatoyo. And, oh man, the screw came out. And if you've never dropped one of those, good grief. Good luck to you finding that, buddy. This was clocking in, I think, 492 last night. We'll go with 494. We'll see if she'll repeat. 494 again. So this little Icon guy, let's go ahead and close it just in case somebody's going to say, you know, you put something on the jaw. 581. Okay, we're going to see if we repeat. 581. Yes, it's a cheap Amazon scale, but repeatability is what we're looking for. So 581 versus, we're going to have what? 494? Boom. And we're going to have 581. Dead on. So knock the cheap scale if you want to, but it's at least repeating. 494 to 581. That is going to be dang near 100 grams, right? We're going to have 494 is 6 off of 5, and then 81, so 87 grams or so, if I'm mathing correctly there. That's very noticeable. Again, that's why I stressed, and that's why I showcase things. Some of you, again, might say, oh, it's beefier. I assure you, the version 2 took all of that into account. I so wish we had the version 1. Thinking back on when German Tool Reviews did it, I want to say it was around that weight difference. So if somebody has a version 1, you can probably compare these side by side, and I think you would be even more shocked. All right, so imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Sometimes it can be taken a little too far. It can kind of become like an obsession, you know. Then you need somebody to kind of bring you back to reality. So what are my thoughts? My thoughts are, I don't think this is going to be a bad tool. It shouldn't be, because they've copied Knipex, so it ought to be decent, you know. The base materials, you got to give the nod to Knipex. The price point, like I said, if this isn't something you're going to rush out and buy today, you're going to be able to get a Knipex for around $50 without too much effort, okay? At that price point, you've got to kind of do what I think the smart thing is and bump up. Case in point, let's just real quick talk TIG welders. Let's theoretically say that a Miller is $3,000. You've got a buddy that's a professional welder. It's what he uses at work and has at his home shop. Let's say you got another buddy with a Lincoln Square Wave that is $2,500, okay? And he swears by it, says it's great, it's better than Lincoln, and saves $500. And then let's come into Harbor Freight and go to their top-of-the-line Vulcan and say that it is $2,450. I'm going to tell you right now, I would not buy the Vulcan when it's $50 away from the Lincoln. I would not probably buy the Vulcan when we're that close to the Miller. Now, if we look at a $3,000 Miller and a $2,500 Lincoln, and then we've got Harbor Freight's top-of-the-line TIG welder at $750, okay, you know, I'll give you that. That's sort of like Icon versus Stahlwille, you know. This might be the better tool, it might be the better base materials, might feel better in hand, be lighter, function, smoother, everything, but it's also 4 times the price, or 3 times the price, I'm sorry. Same with Gedore, roughly twice the price. I won't fault anyone for that. But when you're that close, I just, as somebody trying to help you out, I would go this route. Now, if this thing was 19 bucks, I really wouldn't fault people for skipping Knipex. I'd caution you, you know, like, hey, if this is going to be something you're going to use, or you're going to envision yourself having a lot, maybe save up, you know, get the higher quality item there. But if it's a curiosity purchase, or you're just going to see how you like it, and it was 19, that's a wash. You know, for $20, I think you're going to get enough service life out of this thing that you're going to be able to call it a good purchase. At $40, when you can get this for roughly the same price or just a little bit more, I can't. And that's where I think this is going to have to come down to $29 at minimum, and then some of you would still be advised to wait for a promotion where you can maybe get it for 25, maybe even 20 bucks. I don't know that that's possible. I don't know if it's doable, but if this is going to stay at the $40 mark, I'm going to tell you to go to Knipex. I'll just straight up, again, this is as a guy that likes both companies. I have tons of stuff from Knipex. I have tons of stuff from Harbor Freight. I like that they're doing this. I wish they would have done their own thing with it, though. Can't stress that enough. And I also realize now this is like absurdly long and probably just as bad or worse than what I did last night. So I just, one of those deals. Like I always say, succinct is not my thing. I suck at that. These are my thoughts. We can come in and break this down, be way more analytical if we need to. Where I could say that you could come in and buy this, if you're a Knipex guy and you love Knipex, think of it this way, all right? I can't tell you how many times I've been back there with somebody working on the forklift, and the tech comes in, and he's got this like fancy bag or, you know, little box thing, and you see all the snap-on stuff. And then when he goes into the engine bay of the old Cat forklift, what does he use? He doesn't use that snap-on, okay? He's got like Craftsman stuff. He's got a Cobalt ratchet. Sometimes they have Pittsburgh, you know. There are certain times, this is kind of like when you have interior and exterior tools, right? You keep your interior stuff super clean. If this is what you splurged on, if the 60 bucks, you know, was a lot of money for you, and you're like, man, I want to take care of this, I want it to be a lifetime tool, pass it down to my kids, and you can use it in a clean setting, benchtop assembly work, you know, reassembly, whatever it is, do that. If you've got a deal where you love this thing and you want to use it outside, you want to use it on sprinkler fittings, you got, you know, a farm, or you work on implements or something, and stuff is nasty and covered in mud, and any tool that you use, you know, flash rust and just gets beat to snot, and you have to use it as a hammer, take a flyer. I mean, give it a shot. I would still wait for a sale of some sort, even if it is $39 and they take $5 off Icon, something, you know, because that's just ingrained in me personally when shopping at Harbor Freight. Give it a go. I mean, try it out, you know, make fun of it, you know, beat on it, break it. You know, it is what it is in that instance. But if this is something that you're buying for your primary tool, get the Knipex. You know, if you're super curious about some of the stuff you've seen here and you can save up or wait or catch a sale, like, I mean, you might be able to land this on Tool of the Day for like $49. If that happens, go that route, you know, black and blue, or you prefer Gedore. If you're like, man, you know, that design is like super unique, I got to get that. You're not going to catch as many sales on Stahlwille, but just kind of put it on your wish list and watch it, and maybe you'll get lucky. But short of testing something out or taking a flyer, or like this is going to be your like field work pliers wrench or like a backup, I mean, I'll be straight up honest with you. With pliers wrenches, I usually use 2 in tandem. It's a deal. I don't have a ton of metric wrenches. The bigger you get, the less likely I am to have them. That's where I've got the Gedore on one side, the Stahlwille on the other. That's where the Knipex comes in, and we're spinning, you know, like the trolley nuts on the gantry crane, right? You could totally have this as the other pair, if you will, you know, like the side chick. You have it on the back side, and this is your main one. Whatever you want to do to sort of justify bringing it in, you do that. But if it's going to be one tool and you're going one time, as much as this pays homage, if you want to call it that, or blatantly rips it off, depending on your views, the Knipex, give the nod to the innovator, the originator, would be my advice. But with that said, I am going to use this thing. I'll make a point to try to use it exclusively and just get like some real world thoughts and impressions on it. From playing around last night, I can tell you the weight is noticeable. The push button, it binds and grinds quite a bit more. The jaws, I wasn't as happy. There's a lot of slop in them when you go wide open. Again, we're wide open, closed position, and that thing is flopping quite a bit. I'll do the exact same thing with Knipex. Wide open, closing them all the way. And yes, there is play, but it's not to the point that I would call it flop. Okay. The other thing that really worried me is this. Okay. So I get it. You know, whenever you use the pliers wrench, you would be applying downward force and the cam would come in here. Watch me open this. Do you see how close we are to breaking out of that cam, right? We've got the lobe in the valley, and I mean, I honestly think if I wanted to, we could probably jump the tracks, if you will. With the Knipex, it's the same thing, but you've got way more material here. You're like recessed up and in versus this one. If there's going to be early failures with these, I think it's going to be from that. I think eventually, you know, like when there's an adjustment or somebody's mad because it's kind of binding, I think there are people that will snap that out. I could be mistaken, but just being somebody with an initial inspection here, it is a concern of mine. But yeah, this is way longer than I wanted it to be too. And I think I've sort of hit on everything. And I'm going to get inside, try to see if I want to eat supper or not. It is starting to get cold out here, but I went ahead and bought it. I was on the fence. Like, I mean, $40 is a good chunk of money to me. You've got to understand, with these Knipex pliers wrenches, I didn't just bring them in. You know, I didn't go out there and pay the 67 or, you know, 60 bucks regular price. I wait. That's why when we do the tool hauls, you always hear me, tool of the day. Oh, you know, it was a quarterly sale. Wow, they had a clearance on this item. I patiently wait and I cash in. And I mean, you do that if you saved 20 bucks here and you saved $30 here, and then we came in and we saved, you know, 15 on this pair. I've bought this and I've got money for 2 screwdrivers, you know? So, I mean, I practice what I preach. I'm very thrifty, except in this case. And this is a deal, honestly, if we didn't have the YouTube channel here, I would have been super curious about this. I would have waited until the price dropped. And I do think the price is going to drop. Don't hold me to it. It's all subjective conjecture on my end. But I think the sweet spot for Harbor Freight would be $29. With their competitors kind of having the higher price points as well, maybe they can get by. But I'll just tell you right now, whatever you're looking at, if it's around $40, I don't care, insert brand X from China or Taiwan, you're too close to Knipex to do that. Don't do that to yourself. I'm looking out for you. It's too freaking close of a price point. Now again, like I said, if it was comparing Icon or Lenox or whatever to Stahlwille, yeah, it's a third of the price. I'm not gonna absolutely come in and tell you, man, you're crazy. But when it's $5 to $10, man, I think you're better off waiting. And I firmly believe that. That's the reason I'm gonna tell you. So that's about it. I assume here early on you're either going to get videos where people straight up bash this, or they straight up praise this. It's God's gift to tools. It's the greatest pliers wrench ever. Look at this fool over here that threw all this money away on German tools. I only spent $40. And I don't know that there's going to be much middle ground. I don't know that there's anyone that's going to take like a subjective approach to this. And that's kind of what I wanted to do, is just say, hey, I've got these tools, I've used these tools, I feel like I can vouch for them, you know, 3+ years, 4 years on some of them. Still not a lot of time in my opinion, but they do get used quite a bit. I'll use this one, but I think, again, being Harbor Freight, it's polarizing, so it's either going to be, this is the best ever, trust me, you know, it was sent out by Harbor Freight for review, but that doesn't influence me any, or it's going to be like, this is the OG GOAT, and that's just a blatant ripoff, and I'll give people that, but I do think that there is a place for a cheaper option for a pliers wrench. $40 is too much in my humble opinion, and I don't know. You got to do what's best for you, but initial impressions, I think it's functional. I do have some things I'm concerned about. We'll just have to wait and see. Like I say, I can't be a hypocrite and come out here and tell you this is junk, because I need to use it and see how it performs over time. Time being the big deal. Obviously, if it failed on like day 2 of real world usage, it's junk. Okay, and I will come back and update you. If I'm sitting here and I've used it 4 months, it's probably going to be okay, but I can tell you, just having used all of these, even if this breaks in 3 weeks or whatever time frame, it's just the tolerances, man. The base material concerns me, but then the tolerances, the flop, the issues I pointed out, the size markings, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if there's a situation where I would ever be able to see that. Like right now, you would have no idea there's size markings there. You have to get it in just the right light. That's gonna be the same if you're outside working in the field, or if you're under a car, if you're in an engine bay, and God forbid you have a work light, you're never gonna see that. But little things, man, little things. What I want to know from you is, what are your thoughts? If this, and something I want to convey in my video, my take on it all, I don't have a problem with Harbor Freight doing a pliers wrench. I applaud it, I encourage it. I do have a problem with it being that blatant of a copy, you know. With a toolbox, I mean, there's only so many ways you can do, you know, like steel and handles and drawer configurations. I still think you should do your own thing. Even if you're going with like everyone loves the Waterloo 26, you know, it's the best box of all time. Do something, try to put your spin on that, you know. But with something like this, it's just, you know, kind of a come on, man. You know, like, I like Harbor Freight, but it's like, why? You know, like, somebody came up with this and then nobody checked them and said, I don't know, maybe we change it, you know. Stand up, you know, sometimes, even if you get fired, you know, you have peace of mind, you did the right thing. Like, let's do us. Let's not do Knipex 3. Let's make our own. So, I don't know. But we will use it. We'll see what we think of it. But again, I've kind of got my favorites here. That'll be another video for another day. Who knows, it might wind up being this. That's very unlikely based on initial impressions. But this is not terrible. I want to stress that. It's not terrible. It shouldn't be, because they copied Knipex, you know, right? So it's kind of a catch-22 type of a deal, you know. It's good that you went with something great, but like, it's too obvious, and that's where the controversy comes, and it's a shame that has been brought on you. If you're super upset about this, or you're like, wow, that's great and it's cheaper, like I said, there is a Raptor knockoff available as well, which I have not seen online. It's in store. I'll post pictures of that on YouTube and Instagram so people can check it out. But Yeah, that's it. Those are my thoughts. Again, I think it's either going to be, whoa, you know, Knipex was totally screwed over here, screw Harbor Freight, or it's going to be like, oh, this German junk over here, you know, save your money and buy this one, boys. There's a time and a place for both, but when this is within $10 of that, do yourself a favor and just... I tell you the same thing with a car, right? You know, if you could get a, 2013 RT or a 2016 Hellcat, I'm going to tell you, like, hey, if the insurance is an issue, get the Hellcat. If the RT was, 15 grand and the Hellcat was 50, I'd say, whoa, hey, that's something we got to think about. But if you're talking about like 15,000 and 15,500 and the 500 takes you all the way up to a Hellcat, bumps up the interior, it's a wide body, like, you have to think about these things, right, when you make a purchase. So, with that said, this is way too long. I'm going to go. I hope you enjoyed it. Yesterday was a bad day, man, but we'll see how this goes. I'll try to get it uploaded in time with my amazingly slow internet. Leave your thoughts and comments down below. I know some of you hate it. You won't set foot in Harbor Freight. Some of you appreciate it for what it is. You can find some decent deals and good quality items there for savings. Where I really have issue, and I want to get this off my chest too, is when you have people that are like, oh yeah, Knipex is the best, but then a brand sends something out and it's great, but this is junk. No. Like, if it's from Taiwan, it's from Taiwan, and there's only so many places that are going to be making the items, right? So always keep that in mind. Always, when you watch a video, before you part ways with your money, you gotta know, and it needs to be disclosed, was this purchased by the person? Was this sent out by the company? Did a friend get, like, the background is relevant because you don't need to lose your hard-earned money because somebody is trying to push something because they're going to continue to be fed free items or something, right? I bought this thing. Harbor Freight didn't give it to me. I bought all these. As much as I wish, like Gedore and Stahlwille and Knipex, like dropped gift baskets at the porch, they don't. As much as I've done with Harbor Freight, there's not gift baskets coming from them. So this is just straight up me, a random guy in Texas with my thoughts on this, and I'm trying to prepare you for the inevitable shitstorm that will be videos. Like, get out, and it's either going to be 100% Knipex, which I can't argue with that, or it's going to be 100% Harbor Freight. And I think there's a middle ground there that needs to be kind of broached. But again, it's disappointment on my part, because this could have been a really cool tool where they did their own thing, and it's just the design even it's blatant. I covered in the last night's mess of a video, like, the size ranges are even the same. Start at 12 and then you jump by 5. This one obviously terminates early, and then this one goes on to 52, so 47 to 52, and then this one goes 47 to 50 because that's where it stops. So I mean, even the scale is identical. It's kind of like, come on, and does the scale really apply to the 21 positions? That would be like a way more scientific video than we're going to get into. But I feel confident with the 19 positions here and the size range, it would be close. I don't know about that one, because we've added 2 positions and we've taken away a size, but we have the same scale. Mathematically, is that possible? I don't know. But like I said, everyone's got a pliers wrench now almost. It's just a shame that they chose to make theirs after Knipex and make it so blatantly obvious that that's where it drew inspiration from, to the point that you can confuse consumers. And that's really kind of where I think I have the most issue with it, is if they had this and it had red handles, fine. Icon pliers have red handles. But the design, the cues, the scale, it's just, you could literally have someone, if I had red dipped handles here and we wiped all the branding off, I ground this out, we wiped the Icon laser etching away, there's a lot of people that would not know the difference. And that's where that's where like the shade starts to be cast, and it gives you that uneasy feeling, and it's like, man, I wish you would have just done your own thing, So with that said, we'll use them, we'll see what we think of them. I've got to now go in and try to edit these messes, and this is worse than last night's in terms of length, but it's just one of those things. I've got a lot of thoughts on it, and like I say, I figure it's either going to be all A or all C and not a lot of B, so we try to cover it, give you my thoughts and opinions on it. Interested in yours as well. But ultimately, I have to use this thing before I can say it's okay or it's junk. And I don't think it will be as good as these because the initial impressions tell me it won't. But we will give it a go. We will use it. We will report back. And if you pick one up, let me know. Some of you might use it way more frequently than me, and it might fail. It might break in, and you might be like, man, I love this thing. I actually prefer the weight. I mean, who knows? All sorts of things, personal preference comes into play. But with that said, thanks for watching. I got to check all these texts and hope it's not the guy I had to deal with last night for 2 hours. And, with that said, I'll catch you back here for more action in the shop. LoneStarMopars.com is a website. You can find us Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. With that said, ring the bell if you enjoyed, leave your thoughts, jump your Charger across the creek, grab your Knipex, grab your Icon, put them around the steering wheel, give it a twirl, see where that takes you. And if you do that, YouTube just might let you know new videos every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Texas time. But with that said, you have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you back here for more from the shop.